me, say you miss.
What about it, ladies?
Not enough.
Buckle up, because it's another wild ride down the annals of Hollywood history. From secret addictions to violent lovers, here are 20 hidden truths we discovered about these actors after they passed away.
Our spirits live on in the whole of time, exist in many vessels through time. This is the vessel you're existing in now.
Number 20, Philip Seymour Hoffman. Philip Seymour Hoffman was an American actor and director widely regarded as one of the greatest actors of his generation. Known for his exceptional versatility, emotional depth, and intense performances, Hoffman was celebrated for his work in both mainstream Hollywood films and independent cinema. Hoffman began his career in the early 1990s with supporting roles in films like Scent of a Woman. However, it was roles in films like Boogie Nights, The Big Lebowski, and Magnolia that gave him significant attention. Just like that, his ability to inhabit complex, often troubled characters became a hallmark. But this was only the beginning. He reached the peak of his career with his Academy Award-winning performance as Truman Capote in the 2005 film Capote. It was a role that truly showcased his ability to transform physically and emotionally for a part. In addition to his work on screen, Hoffman was a talented stage actor and director. He earned Tony Award nominations for his performances in Broadway productions like True West, Long Day's Journey into Night, and Death of a Salesman. Despite his tremendous success, Hoffman struggled with addiction behind the scenes. It was a battle that had started in his early years but resurfaced in the later part of his life. Nobody knew about this until it was too late. In February 2014, Hoffman tragically died of a heroin overdose at the age of 46. It was after Philip Seymour Hoffman's death that the significant personal truth about his long-standing struggle with addiction came to light. The world knew him as a talented actor whose public persona was that of a focused and professional artist. Only a few were aware of the depth of his substance abuse issues until after his passing. Hoffman had battled addiction in his youth but had reportedly been sober for 23 years before relapsing in the last few years of his life. After his death from a heroin overdose, it was revealed that he had been struggling with his relapse, attending rehabilitation programs in the years leading up to his death. The revelation was shocking to many, as Hoffman had kept his private life largely out of the public eye, and his addiction did not outwardly impact his professional work or reputation. The discovery of Hoffman's struggle with heroin, prescription drugs, and other substances highlighted the toll that addiction can take, even on those who seem to have everything under control. His death opened up larger conversations in the public sphere about addiction, particularly among high-achieving individuals in demanding professions, and the fact that such struggles can be invisible to the outside world. Hoffman left behind a legacy of incredible performances that continue to be studied and admired by actors and film lovers alike.
Oh, God. What's wrong, Ty?
They're playing our song. The one that Alan and I danced to.
Number 19, Brittany Murphy. Brittany Murphy was a talented American actress and singer known for her versatility and effervescent personality. Murphy quickly rose to prominence in the late 1990s and early 2000s. Her career spanned film, television, and music. Brittany Murphy was born in Atlanta, Georgia, but she found herself in Los Angeles when her mother decided she had what it took to be a star. From that tender age, she began to pursue acting. Murphy's first significant role came in 1991 when she was cast as Brenda Driscoll in the television series Driscoll's Class. This was followed by roles in other TV shows like Blossom and Sister Sister. Murphy's big break came in 1995 with her role as Ty Frazier in the iconic teen comedy Clueless. Playing the lovable but awkward new girl in school, Murphy's performance was both endearing and memorable, making her a standout in the film. It also helps that Clueless was a major success, so she was finally cementing her place in Hollywood as a rising star. Following the success of Clueless, Murphy transitioned to more varied roles in both independent films and mainstream Hollywood productions. She showcased her range as an actress in films like Girl Interrupted in 1999 and Just Married opposite Ashton Kutcher in 2001. The film was a box office hit, and her chemistry with Kutcher, both on and off screen, garnered significant media attention. Other notable films during this period included 8 Mile in 2002 and Uptown Girls in 2003. Murphy was booked and busy. But by December 2009, the world would hear very unfortunate news. It was reported that Brittany Murphy had died suddenly at her home in Los Angeles. She was just 32. The Los Angeles County Coroner's Office initially reported that the cause of death was pneumonia, with secondary factors of iron deficiency anemia and multiple drug intoxication. The drugs found in her system were all legal and consistent with over-the-counter medications or prescription drugs. After Brittany Murphy's sudden and tragic death, several controversies and personal truths emerged that cast a shadow over her passing. Initially reported as being caused by pneumonia, anemia, and multiple drug intoxication, her death at the age of 32 raised significant public speculation and led to a series of revelations that added complexity to her story. One of the primary truths revealed was the extent of Murphy's health and drug use in the time leading up to her death. While the toxicology report indicated that she had taken a combination of over-the-counter medications and prescription drugs, these were not illicit substances. Rather, they were reportedly medications for respiratory infections, pain, and mental health. However, the quantity and variety of drugs, combined with her frail physical condition due to anemia, was the problem. If anything, it pointed to a possible neglect or improper medical care. Her husband, Simon Monjack, and her mother, Sharon Murphy, who lived with her at the time, stated that Brittany had been ill for days before her death. Questions were raised about why she had not been taken to the hospital sooner and why she had been taking so many medications. It led to concerns about her health being mismanaged by those closest to her. Another significant controversy emerged regarding the living conditions in Brittany Murphy's home. A year later, her husband, Simon Monjack, also died under eerily similar circumstances. This was just 5 months after Brittany. This fueled further speculation, leading some to suggest the possibility of environmental factors, such as toxic mold in the house, contributing to both deaths. While it was never officially confirmed, it did raise questions about whether her death could have been prevented if her living conditions had been healthier. Even more shocking were the hidden details about her relationship with Simon Monjack. When these details came to light, it was revealed that their marriage had been surrounded by instability. Monjack was a British screenwriter and photographer. He was quite a controversial figure, and there were rumors that he had been controlling and manipulative. According to the rumors, he had kept Murphy isolated from friends and professional connections. Monjack was also rumored to be involved in legal and financial troubles, from lawsuits to unpaid debts. All these details alluded to the fact that Murphy's personal life was in disarray at the time of her death. While Murphy was widely known for her bubbly, vivacious on-screen persona, after her death it became clear that she may have struggled with anxiety over her personal affairs and other mental health issues. There were reports of her feeling paranoid, anxious about her career, and overly reliant on medications to cope with these challenges. Some would also say that her career had been in decline. This may have contributed to her stress and vulnerability. In the years following her death, multiple conspiracy theories have surfaced. These allegations of foul play incriminate Monjack and a couple of political figures due to her involvement with a whistleblower in the Department of Homeland Security.
Something occurred to me. I fell into a deep, peaceful sleep and haven't thought about you since. You know what occurred to me?
No.
You're just a kid.
Number 18. Robin Williams. Extraordinary talent, quick wit, and ability to seamlessly shift between comedic and dramatic roles were all used to describe Robin Williams. Even today, the American actor and comedian is widely regarded as one of the most beloved and influential entertainers of his time. Off-screen, Williams was known for his generosity and kindness, often visiting hospitals and supporting charities, especially for homeless shelters and causes related to mental health. After Robin Williams' death by suicide in 2014, a significant and heartbreaking personal truth came to life. The truth is that Williams had been suffering from a devastating neurodegenerative disease called Lewy body dementia, LBD for short. This revelation not only reshaped the public's understanding of his mental and physical struggles in his final years, it also explained why the beloved comedian, known for his wit and energy, had tragically taken his own life. Initially, when news broke of Williams' suicide, many assumed his actions were tied to his long history of battling depression, addiction, and mental health issues. While Williams had been open in the past about his struggles with addiction and mental health, what emerged after his death was that these issues had been exacerbated by undiagnosed Lewy body dementia. LBD is a complex and aggressive form of dementia that affects cognition, movement, mood, and behavior. It is often misdiagnosed as Alzheimer's or Parkinson's disease, which had been the case for Williams. Williams had been misdiagnosed with Parkinson's disease in 2013, but after his death, an autopsy revealed that he had actually been suffering from LBD. The autopsy revealed some very profound changes in his brain. Lewy bodies and protein deposits in the brain disrupt normal brain function. In such cases, it leads to a range of symptoms, including severe anxiety, depression, hallucinations, cognitive decline, and physical tremors. These were the symptoms Williams had reportedly experienced in his last months. Those closest to him had described how his condition had caused him immense suffering. He experienced severe anxiety, paranoia, memory loss, and hallucinations. We imagine that these symptoms made him feel as though he was losing control over his mind and body. Williams was known for his sharp mind, rapid wit, and remarkable ability to improvise, but LBD was stealing those gifts from him, leaving him frustrated and scared. His widow, Susan Schneider Williams, revealed in a 2016 essay titled "The Terrorist Inside My Husband's Brain" that the disease had left him feeling increasingly confused and incapacitated. He had difficulty remembering his lines, suffered from tremors, and was plagued by paranoia and delusions. She described how Williams desperately sought answers for what was happening to him, but was repeatedly misdiagnosed. In his final days, the severity of his condition became unbearable, and his decision to end his life was seen, in part, as a response to the torment LBD had caused. Before the revelation of his illness, many people viewed Williams' suicide through the lens of his lifelong battle with depression and addiction. While those factors may have contributed, the understanding that Lewy body dementia was at the root of his suffering helped to provide context for the overwhelming difficulties he was facing. It also shifted the conversation toward greater awareness of this lesser-known but debilitating disease. Many people, including medical professionals, were unfamiliar with LBD, and Williams' death helped bring attention to how challenging it is to diagnose and treat. The personal truth about Williams' struggle with LBD was also underscored by the idea that even the most seemingly joyful, successful individuals can face unbearable internal struggles. Williams had built a career on making others laugh, but behind the scenes, his battle with this neurological disease became all-consuming, leaving him feeling isolated and misunderstood. The revelation of Williams' illness and his widow's subsequent advocacy work brought attention to Lewy body dementia. Her work has since raised awareness about its symptoms and the challenges it presents for those diagnosed and their caregivers. These were the symptoms Williams had reportedly experienced in his last months. Number 17, Heath Ledger. You might remember this Australian actor for his powerful performances in both indie films and major Hollywood productions, but we are certain that his role as the Joker in The Dark Knight is by far his most recognizable role. Born in Perth, Australia, Ledger first gained international fame for his portrayal of Ennis Del Mar in the 2005 film Brokeback Mountain. This role brought on so much critical acclaim that he even received an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor. But by 2008, his now famous role as the Joker shot him to new heights of fame. Despite his tragic death in January 2008, this role earned him numerous posthumous awards, including the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. He had a unique acting style that was marked by an intense commitment to his roles. As you are about to see, the process of immersing himself deeply into his characters cost him a lot more than he may have intended. On January 22, 2008, Ledger died from an accidental overdose of prescription medications. His death was shocking news on its own, but it subsequently led to the publication of some well-hidden secrets. You see, several revelations and rumors came to light about the darker aspects of his life, particularly his struggles with mental health and substance abuse. The official cause of his death was an accidental overdose of prescription drugs, including painkillers, sleeping pills, and anti-anxiety medications. While it was known he had been prescribed these medications for various ailments, the extent of his reliance on them wasn't fully understood until his autopsy report was released. The report revealed that Ledger had been battling substance abuse issues, particularly with prescription medications. Ledger was known for his intense dedication to his craft, but it became more apparent after his death just how much of a toll this took on his mental health. His immersion into dark and complex roles, particularly his portrayal of the Joker, reportedly affected his mental state. He admitted to suffering from insomnia and anxiety while preparing for the role. From sleepless nights to mind-consuming thoughts and ideas about the character, this role likely worsened his existing struggles with anxiety and depression. After his passing, some reports claimed that Ledger kept a personal diary while preparing for his role as the Joker. According to some accounts, the diary contained disturbing images, thoughts, and writings that reflected the dark mindset he entered while preparing for the role. The clippings, drawings, and disturbing thoughts about the Joker's character offered a glimpse into the mental and emotional toll the role took on him.
And every morning when you woke up, you'd still be Beatrix Kiddo. Oh, you can take the needle out.
Number 16, David Carradine. Best known for his roles in the television series Kung Fu and Quentin Tarantino's Kill Bill films, David Carradine made a name for himself through a career spanning over 4 decades in television and film. Born into a family of actors, we mean his father was legendary actor John Carradine. He grew up surrounded by the entertainment industry. David Carradine's career spanned over 100 films and countless television appearances, leaving a mark on both the action and martial arts genres. David Carradine's death in 2009 revealed some personal truths. It sparked significant controversy that forever altered the public perceptions of him. To begin with, Carradine was found dead in a Bangkok hotel room under mysterious and shocking circumstances. The initial investigation by Thai authorities concluded that he had died from autoerotic asphyxiation. Put lightly, it is a form of adult activity where self-strangulation is used to enhance the experience. Only this revelation exposed a bigger and more hidden aspect of his life that nobody could have guessed. Carradine was found hanging in a closet with a cord around his neck. There was also a cord around his private area. The controversial nature of his death was a sharp contrast to the public image of Carradine as a martial artist and introspective actor. This resulted in a media firestorm, with headlines sensationalizing the actor's final moments. Seeing this, the investigators suggested that his death was accidental. When the Thai police quickly ruled out foul play, the conclusion did not sit well with his family. Perhaps it was the sensational nature of the reports that followed. His family and ex-wife raised concerns, suggesting that foul play could have been involved or that the death had not been properly investigated. As details of Carradine's death emerged, so did the truth about his private proclivities. His ex-wife, Marina Anderson, later revealed in her memoir that Carradine had engaged in dangerous sexual behaviors throughout their marriage. Anderson described their marriage as volatile, notably citing Carradine's compulsive and often destructive behavior as contributing factors to their divorce. Anderson's revelations shed light on a more complex and darker side of Carradine's life. If her memoir was any indicator, then his risky bedroom behaviors had been going on for a long time. She described him as a deeply troubled man with a self-destructive streak, unable to control certain compulsions. As you can imagine, the media focused heavily on the nature of Carradine's death. This shift in public focus led to an overshadowing of his career and achievements. Carradine had been a respected actor, particularly known for his portrayal of characters with a calm, spiritual, and martial arts-oriented demeanor. This popular projection on him made the revelations of his private life all the more shocking. Many fans struggled to reconcile the image of the disciplined kung fu star with the actor's risky behavior. After his death, Carradine's family sought further investigation, as they believed the official explanation did not fully account for all the circumstances. They hired a forensic pathologist who suggested that Carradine's death may not have been an accident. The family filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the film production company Carradine had been working in Thailand, claiming they had failed to provide adequate protection and safety measures. The suit was eventually dismissed.
See that star right underneath the 7? That's my papa's signature.
Number 15, Natalie Wood. Natalie Wood was a true American sweetheart. She began acting as a child and was able to successfully transition to young adult roles in Hollywood. In time, she rose to the top echelon of Hollywood and became a respected actress in the industry. Well, that was until the 1970s when she began a hiatus from film and had 2 daughters. On November 29, 1981, Wood was 43 years old when she drowned in the Pacific Ocean near Santa Catalina Island during a break from production of Brainstorm, a 1983 film that was set to be her comeback to Hollywood. She had been on a weekend boat trip to Santa Catalina Island aboard her husband Robert Wagner's 58-foot motor yacht. Other than the fact that she drowned, many of the circumstances surrounding her death remain unknown. What would shock the public, however, was the details of her marriage to Wagner. Prior to her death, nobody would have suspected their relationship was anything but perfect. There were just too many theories and not enough evidence to solve the case. For one, it has never been determined how she entered the water. Wood was with her husband, a Brainstorm co-star Christopher Walken, and the captain Dennis Stavern on the evening of November 28. Authorities would then recover her body at 8 a.m. on November 29th, 1 mile away from the boat. First, Wagner said that she was not with him when he went to bed, but the autopsy report revealed that she had bruises on her body and arms, as well as an abrasion on her left cheek. While there was no indication as to how or when the injuries occurred, Stavern had previously stated that Wood and Wagner argued that evening. Again, Wagner denied that such an argument took place. However, in his memoir, Pieces of My Heart, Wagner later admitted that he had an argument with Wood before she disappeared. The autopsy also found that Wood's blood alcohol content was 0.14 and that there were traces of a motion sickness pill and a painkiller in her bloodstream. These two have been proven to both increase the effects of alcohol. Los Angeles County Coroner Thomas Noguchi ruled the case of her death to be accidental drowning and hypothermia. According to their theory, Wood had been drinking and may have slipped while trying to reboard the dinghy. However, her sister Lana expressed doubts, alleging that Wood could not swim and had been terrified of water all her life. She also insisted that her sister would never have left the yacht on her own by dinghy.
What about it, ladies?
Better not.
Number 14, Marilyn Monroe. Famous for playing the stereotypical blonde bombshell characters, Marilyn Monroe solidified her position as a cultural icon. Monroe was widely known for her beauty, charisma, and talent, but after her death, many of her personal struggles were revealed. These struggles exposed a side of her that had largely been hidden from the public. It became clear that Monroe had dealt with significant mental issues, including depression, anxiety, and chronic insomnia. You see, Monroe's early life was fraught with instability, including abandonment by her parents and time spent in foster homes and an orphanage. Her mother, Gladys Pearl Baker, suffered from mental illness, and Monroe had spent much of her life seeking emotional security and validation, often feeling isolated despite her immense fame. This traumatic upbringing likely set the tone for the emotional and psychological difficulties she faced as an adult. These unresolved issues may have fueled the severe anxiety, depression, and insomnia that Monroe reportedly suffered from. These conditions were not well understood or adequately treated at the time. Sadly, to manage these issues, she was prescribed a range of medications, including barbiturates, amphetamines, and sleeping pills. The medical community's approach to treating mental health in the 1950s and 1960s often involved prescribing such drugs without fully understanding their addictive potential. Monroe's addiction to drugs had a significant impact on her professional life. Her erratic behavior on set included frequent tardiness, forgetting lines, and sudden mood swings. While Monroe was one of the biggest stars in Hollywood, her addiction and the accompanying behavioral issues contributed to a decline in her career. Despite her public image as a glamorous star, Monroe was profoundly lonely. Her addiction further isolated her from those around her, as her erratic behavior and substance abuse created barriers between her and the people who cared for her. Monroe's drug addiction took a severe toll on her physical and mental health. Her reliance on barbiturates and amphetamines led to cycles of severe depression and mania, further destabilizing her already fragile mental state. On August 5, 1962, Marilyn Monroe was found dead in her home from an apparent overdose of barbiturates. Her death was officially ruled a probable suicide. though some conspiracy theories suggest otherwise. After her tragic death, numerous personal truths and controversies emerged. The most enduring of them was her alleged romantic relationships with both President John F. Kennedy and his brother Robert F. Kennedy. Rumors had long swirled about Monroe's connection to the Kennedys, but after her death, these speculations intensified. Some reports suggested that she had been romantically involved with John F. Kennedy and, later, his brother Robert. Many even speculated that her involvement with a powerful political family may have played a role in her death. There were allegations that Monroe was becoming a liability to the Kennedys due to her unstable mental health and her possible knowledge of sensitive political information. Some conspiracy theories posited that Monroe's death was not a suicide, but a cover-up orchestrated to protect the Kennedys from scandal. While there is no definitive proof of these claims, the association with the Kennedys remains one of the most prominent and controversial aspects of Monroe's legacy. Other theories of foul play stem from the forensic inconsistencies in the investigation of her death, from the delayed arrival of authorities to the absence of certain toxicology records and conflicting witness accounts. There was seemingly no shortage of discrepancies. Various biographers, investigators, and conspiracy theorists have argued that Monroe's death may have involved foul play, though no concrete evidence has ever substantiated these claims.
Put your hands down. Put your hands down.
Number 13. Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee was a groundbreaking martial artist, actor, and philosopher whose influence transcended film and martial arts to impact culture worldwide. Born in San Francisco in 1940 and raised in Hong Kong, Lee became a symbol of physical mastery, self-discipline, and the blending of Eastern and Western philosophies. Known for his extraordinary physical abilities, including speed, strength, and precision, he revolutionized martial arts through his development of Jeet Kune Do, a philosophy of fighting that emphasized fluidity, adaptability, and practicality. As a film star, Lee broke barriers for Asian actors in Hollywood with iconic roles in films like Enter the Dragon and Fists of Fury. He challenged stereotypes, showing that an Asian actor could be a global superstar and a leading man with strength, charisma, and depth. So you can imagine that his death in 1973 at the age of 32 shocked the world. However, in the years following his passing, various controversies emerged and, dare we say, cast a shadow over his otherwise illustrious career. Bruce Lee died unexpectedly on July 20th, 1973 in Hong Kong. Officially, the cause of death was listed as cerebral edema. Put simply, it is a swelling of the brain. In his case, it was believed to have been triggered by an allergic reaction to Equagesic, a painkiller he took for a headache. However, the circumstances surrounding his death led to immediate controversy and conspiracy theories that something more sinister was at play. There were inconsistencies in the timeline of his final hours, including the fact that he died in the apartment of Taiwanese actress Betty Ting-pei. This raised eyebrows and created room for speculation about the nature of their relationship. The fact that Lee died in the apartment of relatively unknown actress Betty Ting-pei led to significant controversy, especially because his wife, Linda Lee Cadwell, was not with him at the time. Speculation about an affair between Lee and Ting-pei spread, although both Ting-pei and others close to Lee denied these rumors. The exact nature of their relationship remains unclear, but this part of the story adds a layer of intrigue and scandal to his untimely death. Lee had reportedly complained of a headache, taken the medication, and laid down to rest. Unfortunately, he never woke up. While cerebral edema was the official cause of death, many people found it difficult to accept that a supremely fit martial artist like Bruce Lee could die so suddenly. Some believed that Lee had been assassinated by the Triads, the Chinese organized crime syndicates, or by rival martial artists due to disputes or jealousy over his success. Another popular theory was that Lee had been killed by Chinese nationalists who were angry that he was revealing traditional martial arts secrets to the Western world. A more mystical theory involved the so-called Curse of the Dragon. It suggested that Lee's death was the result of a supernatural force targeting his family. After his death, some reports suggest that Lee had been using cannabis heavily to relieve pain and stress, particularly in the months leading up to his death. Lee's autopsy revealed traces of cannabis in his system, which led to speculation that his use of the drug could have contributed to his death. After Lee's death, some of his health issues that had not been widely known during his life became public knowledge. Let's consider a few months before his death. In May 1973, Lee had collapsed while working on the film Enter the Dragon. He suffered from seizures and headaches. At the time, doctors diagnosed him with cerebral edema, the same condition that would later be listed as the cause of his death. Additionally, it was never revealed that Lee had been under significant stress, both physically and mentally. He worked long hours to complete Enter the Dragon and other projects while dealing with the pressure of being a global martial arts icon. Another personal truth revealed after his death was the extent of Bruce Lee's physical struggles. In 1970, Lee had severely injured his back while lifting weights, which was kept mostly private at the time. The injury left him temporarily bedridden and unable to practice martial arts for months. Doctors reportedly told him he might never be able to perform martial arts again, but Lee dedicated himself to rehabilitation, eventually recovering and returning to full strength. This back injury had a profound effect on Lee, physically and psychologically, and it also contributed to his exploration of philosophy and deeper aspects of martial arts. However, some have speculated that his rigorous training, combined with his previous injuries, may have played a role in his health decline. Number 12. Judy Garland. Following her role as Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, Judy Garland was catapulted to international fame. This success only led to a series of successful films, concerts, and recordings to her name. After Garland's death, her financial troubles, lifelong struggles with addiction, and the exploitation she faced during her time as a child star became more widely understood. Judy Garland was only 47 when she died in 1969. Her passing brought to light a series of personal truths and controversies that exposed the darker side of her life. One of the most significant personal truths revealed after Garland's death was the extent of her lifelong battle with substance abuse. Her death was officially ruled an accidental overdose of barbiturates. Sadly, this was something she had been prescribed for years. Garland had been addicted to prescription medications for most of her life, a habit that began when she was a teenager under contract with MGM Studios. Unfortunately, she was signed up for one of the strictest studios at the time. Garland's addiction issues can be traced back to her time at MGM. The studio placed immense pressure on her to maintain a certain image and work schedule. To keep up with the grueling demands, Garland was given amphetamines to stay awake and work for hours without end, only to be given sedatives to sleep. This practice started when she was a teenager and, in time, led to a lifelong struggle with substance abuse. The constant use of drugs severely impacted Garland's physical and mental health. She experienced extreme weight fluctuations, exhaustion, and bouts of depression. Her personal life was tumultuous, with multiple marriages and financial difficulties all brought on by her addiction. Throughout her life, Garland made multiple attempts to overcome her addiction. She sought treatment on several occasions, but the pressures of her career and personal life made sustained recovery difficult. Despite these efforts, her addiction persisted. How tragic is that? Garland's addiction was closely tied to her struggles with mental health. This was another aspect of her life that became more widely known after her death. She reportedly dealt with severe depression, anxiety, and feelings of inadequacy, despite her enormous success as a performer. Throughout her life, Garland experienced multiple nervous breakdowns, several suicide attempts, and long periods of instability. Garland's personal letters and interviews that surfaced after her death revealed the depth of her pain and the immense pressure she felt while trying to live up to the image of a star. She also highlighted her insecurities regarding her looks and weight. Despite her status as one of the most famous performers in the world, Garland struggled with severe financial problems in the years leading up to her death. It was revealed that Garland had been deeply in debt, largely due to mismanagement of her finances, bad investments, and the high cost of her lifestyle. Garland's financial woes had also been exacerbated by her troubled marriages. She was married 5 times, and many of her relationships were marked by instability and financial strain. At the time of her death, she was reportedly living in near poverty in London, performing in small venues just to make ends meet.
It's crowded.
Well, I am.
Look, my just gonna be at the Calico Inn later. Ain't there no way you can get out of here?
Number 11, Montgomery Clift. It goes without saying that a huge part of Montgomery Clift's career, like that of many attractive actors, relied heavily on his appearance. The four-time Academy Award nominee was known for his perfect portrayals of sensitive young men. Just like Marlon Brando and James Dean, Clift was considered one of the original method actors. Sadly, his enviable career was ultimately cut short by a terrible tragedy. While returning home from a party hosted by co-star and close friend Elizabeth Taylor, Clift was involved in a near-fatal accident. The accident left Clift not only disfigured, but also with two front teeth lodged in his throat, risking suffocation. One tooth reportedly pierced his tongue, while his nose and jaw were both broken. As the story goes, it was Taylor who rushed to the scene and squeezed into the car that saved his life. He had reportedly been choked by a tooth that had gone down his throat. Considering the technology at the time, the surgeons did an admirable job on his face. Still, it was impossible to ignore the noticeable scarring that remained. Additionally, the left side of his face was left largely paralyzed. As such, filmmakers had to shoot him from the opposite side whenever possible in his post-accident films. In essence, his career as a romantic lead, which had been his primary focus up to that point, was effectively derailed. This would be a difficult realization for any actor to accept. We mean even stars who naturally transition out of such roles due to aging have a hard time at it. So imagine the added emotional burden of grappling with the aftermath of a truly horrific car accident. To make matters worse, his friends had to shield him from the prying eyes of the press, who had arrived on the scene even before the ambulance. Enduring such a traumatic experience and remaining unaffected by the toll it takes on their psyche is almost impossible. That said, the accident essentially triggered what Robert Louis famously referred to as the longest suicide in Hollywood history. Clift's pre-existing alcoholism was only exacerbated by the accident. Top that off with a newfound reliance on various painkillers, then you can see the makings of a destructive cycle. As his condition worsened, fewer people were willing to associate with him, leaving only a small group of friends who remained loyal until the end. But nobody knew any of that. It wasn't until his death that the details of his struggles became widely known. Montgomery Clift's story stands as one of the greatest tragedies of that era in Hollywood, with his ultimate downfall seeming inevitable from the moment of his crash. Number 10, George Reeves. Best known for playing Superman in the 1950s television series Adventures of Superman, George Reeves died under mysterious circumstances. Reeves was found dead in his bedroom with a gunshot wound to the head on June 16, 1959. At the time of his death, Reeves was living in Benedict Canyon, Los Angeles, with his fiancée, Lenore Lemon, and they had been hosting a small gathering at their home on the night he died. According to the official account, Reeves went upstairs to bed, and shortly thereafter, a gunshot was heard. He was found dead, lying naked on his bed with a .30 caliber Luger pistol at his feet. The Los Angeles Police Department quickly ruled the death a suicide, citing Reeves' recent struggles with depression, his stalled career, and the reported alcohol problem. However, certain inconsistencies in the case led to further controversy. Many questioned whether it was truly suicide or if something more sinister was at play. Some even suggested foul play involving Hollywood figures, romantic entanglements, or even organized crime. For one, some witnesses claimed to have heard more than one gunshot. Furthermore, there were additional bullet holes found in the floor and walls of the room. If there was more than one, then it greatly conflicts with the official suicide ruling. Another key detail that raised suspicion was the fact that no fingerprints were found on the gun that killed Reeves. The position of Reeves' body on the bed also led to questions. It raised the possibility that Reeves had been shot by someone else and his death was made to look like a suicide. Leonore Lemon, Reeves' fiancée, did not immediately call the police after the gunshot. Instead, reports suggest there was a significant delay before authorities were contacted. Lemon's behavior that night, including her calm demeanor when police arrived, was considered suspicious by some. This brings us to his romantic relationships. It was eventually revealed that he was involved with Toni Mannix, the wife of MGM studio executive Eddie Mannix. Tony Mannix had been in a long-term affair with Reeves before he became engaged to Lemon. Despite her marriage to Eddie, Tony and Reeves were reportedly very close, and she had been financially supporting him during much of their relationship. After Reeves' death, rumors circulated that Eddie Mannix, who was known to have connections with organized crime, might have orchestrated Reeves' murder out of jealousy or revenge on behalf of his wife. Another personal truth that came to light after Reeves' death was the depth of his financial and career struggles. Though he had achieved fame as Superman, Reeves had become typecast in the role, making it difficult for him to find other acting opportunities. By the late 1950s, his acting career had stalled, and he was frustrated with being associated solely with the Superman character. He had expressed dissatisfaction with his career trajectory to friends and colleagues, and some reports suggested he was depressed over his inability to move beyond the role. Financially, Reeves was also struggling. Despite his fame, his contract with the show was not particularly lucrative. These career and financial struggles contributed to the theory that Reeves may have been depressed and contemplating suicide.
It's okay, I want to.
Number 9. River Phoenix. American actor and musician River Phoenix was a young, talented, and dashing star who died of a drug overdose in October 1933. Before his death, he was a celebrated teen star, particularly for his roles in films like Stand By Me and My Own Private Idaho. However, his untimely death outside the Viper Room nightclub in Los Angeles exposed the darker side of his life. The Viper Room was a popular nightclub owned at the time by actor Johnny Depp. Phoenix was performing with his band that night. Witnesses later recounted that Phoenix had taken a mix of drugs, including heroin and cocaine, commonly known as a speedball. After leaving the club, Phoenix began experiencing seizures on the sidewalk and ultimately went into cardiac arrest. Despite attempts to resuscitate him, he was pronounced dead at the hospital. The official cause of death was acute multiple drug intoxication, and it was revealed that Phoenix had ingested a lethal combination of heroin and cocaine. The news of his death stunned his fans and colleagues. Many people did not think he had fallen into the snare of the typical Hollywood party lifestyle, and that's because the extent of his drug use had been largely hidden from the public. Phoenix had carefully cultivated an image of a sensitive, eco-conscious, and socially responsible young man. He was a vegan, an advocate for animal rights, and was outspoken about environmental issues. He also came from a famously unconventional family, having grown up in a hippie, bohemian lifestyle with his siblings. Even then, some sources claim he was only an occasional user. However, his ex-girlfriend, Martha Plimpton, had a different view. She stated that River's drug use had negatively impacted their relationship. According to sources, River had just spent several days on a drug binge with a band member, consuming both cocaine and heroin and going without sleep for days.
I am involved. We are all involved. Mom, a kid was killed tonight. I don't see how I can get out of that by pretending that it didn't happen. Well, you know that...
Number 8. James Dean. James Dean was an iconic figure in American cinema. His roles in Rebel Without a Cause in 1955, East of Eden, and Giant in 1956 earned him the status of a cultural legend. Despite his short-lived career due to an untimely death at the age of 24, his influence can never be ignored, because no matter how brief, Dean's career left an indelible mark on Hollywood. He was celebrated for his intense method acting style and his ability to portray complex, emotionally charged characters. His rebellious image, combined with his brooding good looks, made him a symbol of youthful angst and nonconformity. Dean had it all: the dashing good looks and an enviable career still on the rise. Many believe he would have gone on to do more, but that was not meant to be. Sadly, Dean met a tragic end. Familiar with the notion of certain films being cursed? Of course you have. It's usually hard to miss when a series of tragic or mysterious events surround the production and release of a film. One film I've come to call a cursed film is Rebel Without a Cause. This 1955 film starred James Dean, Natalie Wood, Sal Mineo, and a couple of others. Unfortunately, there would be subsequent tragic events and misfortunes that would be tied to it. You see, Dean died in a car accident just before the release of the film. According to the stories, most members of the cast all met tragic ends. Mineo was stabbed to death close to his apartment. And Natalie Wood? She drowned off the coast of Santa Catalina Island under very mysterious circumstances. See why it has been tagged a cursed film? After Dean's death in a car crash in 1955, speculation about his sexuality surfaced, with rumors that he had been bisexual or gay. It was even a source of controversy, given the era's attitudes towards LGBTQ+ individuals. Several biographers, friends, and associates suggested that Dean had relationships with both men and women. Many considered this to be evidence of his bisexuality. His close relationships with men, including theater director Rogers Brackett and actor Clifton Webb, subsequently fueled this speculation.
Where is that villain, Captain Hook? I'll slice him up and throw him to the crocodile.
I guess Bobby...
Number 7. Bobby Driscoll. Bobby Driscoll became one of Disney's most prominent child stars in the 1940s and early 1950s. His performances in films like Song of the South, So Dear to My Heart, and Treasure Island earned him significant acclaim. Interestingly, Bobby Driscoll was discovered at the age of 5 when a barber introduced him to his neighbor. The neighbor just happened to be a casting director. His natural acting ability quickly set him apart. He had expressive eyes and an endearing smile. He was truly a delight to watch. He made his screen debut in the 1943 film Lost Angel, but it was his role as Johnny in Disney's Song of the South that truly catapulted him to fame. Another significant role for Driscoll was as Jim Hawkins in Disney's 1950 film Treasure Island. In this film, Driscoll showcased his versatility and became an iconic figure in children's adventure films. Driscoll was adored by audiences for his wholesome, relatable, and heartwarming performances, and his ability to convey a wide range of emotions endeared him to both children and adults. Let's not also forget that Driscoll was the ultimate Disney icon. As one of Disney's first contract players, Driscoll became synonymous with the brand's image of innocence and adventure. Sadly, this success came at the cost of a normal childhood. Driscoll faced intense work schedule that left little time for a normal childhood. The demands of continuous filming and promotional activities were exhaustive, and it impacted his education and social development. But the worst was yet to come. As Driscoll grew older, he faced the common issue of typecasting. The onset of puberty brought physical changes, including severe acne and a change in the tone of his voice. This greatly affected his screen image and led to a contract termination with Disney. Hollywood struggled to transition him from a child star to an adolescent or adult actor. The industry's preference for a particular look and type for child actors meant that as he aged, he no longer fit the roles that had made him famous. The abrupt end of his Disney contract in 1953 was a significant blow. This abandonment left Driscoll without the support and guidance he needed during a crucial period of his career and personal development. Later on, Driscoll's life was marred by legal troubles, including arrests related to his drug use. There was also financial difficulties, and he became increasingly marginalized by the industry that once celebrated him. Naturally, the abrupt end to his career contributed to his descent into substance abuse. To make this worse, he faced significant social alienation. The dramatic shift from being a beloved child star to being virtually unemployable was devastating. His attempts to revive his career were largely unsuccessful, and it led to further isolation and despair. So much despair that his life ended tragically. In 1968, he was found dead in an abandoned New York City tenement at the age of 31. His death was attributed to heart failure caused by his drug use. One thing that was evident after he passed? Driscoll had been living in absolute squalor. It was so bad that his body went unidentified for some time. Driscoll's tragic early death in 1968, largely forgotten and destitute, highlighted the stark contrast between his early success and later life. Number 6. Marvin Gay. Born on April 2, 1939, Marvin Gay was the son of a church minister and domestic worker. Now dubbed the Prince of Soul, he began singing in the church with his father. We bet nobody could have predicted the final outcome when Marvin Gay struck out to make a name for himself. But first, he was expelled from the household when he transitioned to secular music. Despite this, Gay rose to prominence as one of Motown's leading figures. He excelled as both a producer and an artist in the 1960s. However, financial challenges plagued Gay. He filed for bankruptcy in 1976 due to outstanding alimony payments. He reportedly owed his ex-wife approximately $600,000. Compounding his financial woes was a substance abuse addiction. All of these problems culminated in a temporary tax exile in Europe. Despite these setbacks, Gay attempted a comeback with Sexual Healing. This song became a massive success, topping the charts and selling millions of copies worldwide. But just when it looked like things were really looking up, the unimaginable happened. You see, his resurgence was short-lived. He was fatally shot by his father a day before his 45th birthday. Reports following his death suggest that tensions between Gay and his father had escalated. Some accounts say it was fueled by jealousy. Others blame it on his father's disapproval of his music. There was even speculation that it was the result of a misunderstanding over an insurance policy. So, despite leaving behind a rich musical legacy, Gay had little in the way of assets at the time of his death, save for his intellectual property rights. His estate had been burdened with debt, but somehow it was managed by his executors, who successfully paid off his creditors through the marketing of his music rights. Fortunately, his estate also accumulated substantial assets, ensuring financial security for his 3 children. If you made it this far, do hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any updates from us. Number 5. Paul Bern. Paul Bern was a German film executive affiliated with MGM. Despite Bern's unassuming demeanor, he possessed the influential connections to make or even break any star. We believe this was the case when he met young starlet Jean Harlow. He harbored a sincere belief in Harlow's potential as a serious actress. Despite a significant age gap, the two courted and got married in July of 1932. But 2 months later, there would be a tragic loss. Bern took his own life with a gunshot wound to the head. This, of course, is classified as a mysterious incident. A man who had it all ended his own life just like that. Before long, authorities unearthed peculiar details in Paul Bern's personal history. It turns out that Bern was still legally wedded to his first wife, Dorothy Millette. What makes things even more mysterious is that Millette promptly settled her bills after a 4-month stay in the Plaza Hotel in San Francisco and secured a passage on the Delta King riverboat. All this only for her body to be discovered in the lake. Another suicide just 2 days apart. Mysterious is surely an understatement. Number 4. Erin Moran. Erin Moran was renowned for her contagious smile and animal-loving heart. Sadly, her later years were anything but rosy. The actress was born on October 18, 1960, in Burbank, California. She was the youngest child of Sharon and Edward Moran, who had 5 other children. By the time she graduated from North Hollywood High School, Moran would set her sights on the entertainment industry. Her acting career began with a TV commercial, but she really gained prominence as Joni Cunningham, Richie Cunningham's sister, on ABC's Happy Days in 1974. However, prior to this role, she was a regular on the series Daktari, 1966, and made guest appearances on various TV shows, including My 3 Sons in 1960, Family Affair in 1966, The Waltons in 1972, and a couple more. In addition to her television work, Moran also appeared in feature films alongside such notable stars as Debbie Reynolds in How Sweet It Is in 1968, Godfrey Cambridge in Watermelon Man in 1970, and Wayne Newton in 80 Steps to Jonah in 1969. Following the end of Happy Days later in 1984, Moran struggled to find consistent roles as an adult. She made sporadic guest appearances on scripted and reality shows. At the end of the day, the truth about her finances was known to a few, but nobody could have guessed it was beyond bankruptcy. Tragically, Moran passed away on April 22, 2017, in Carradine, Indiana, at the age of 56. She was found deceased in the trailer she shared with her husband and mother-in-law. Reports after she passed suggested that Moran's final years were marked by financial hardship and homelessness. At some point, she had even been expelled from her mother-in-law's trailer park residence, from appearing haggard whenever she was publicly spotted and recognized, to always having a cigarette in hand. Moran may just have had the saddest couple of years up until her death.
Well? It's delicious.
Number 3. Bela Lugosi. Want to know an extreme case of typecasting? That would be Bela Lugosi. Because of his performance as Count Dracula, the Hungarian-American actor unintentionally defined his career and created an identity that followed him for the rest of his life and even in death. Born Bela Ferenc Denso Blasco in Hungary, Bela Lugosi had acted on stage in Europe before coming to America in the 1920s. He was also a stage actor in Hungary, where he established himself as a classical actor who always portrayed Shakespeare's characters. Nevertheless, when Lugosi came to America, he had a tough time getting meaty roles because of his heavy accent and rudimentary command of English. Then came the decisive event in Lugosi's life. Sometime in 1927, he received the role of Count Dracula in the stage production based on Bram Stoker's Dracula. The man became an overnight star on the stage after mimicking the Transylvanian vampire. With mesmerizing eyes, an air of sophistication, and an English accent, his outstanding performance as the titular character struck the viewers and the critics. He was later cast as the protagonist in the 1931 Universal Pictures horror film Dracula by director Todd Browning. This role would mark Lugosi as a significant feature in Hollywood history. Lugosi's portrayal of the vampire was memorable, to say the least. What he did was establish one of the most memorable depictions of the vampire, which to this day forms the basis of most depictions of vampires in fiction. People began associating the heavy accent, slicked back hair, and cruel cape with the vampire, and Lugosi's Dracula set the benchmark for all subsequent vampires to be compared with. But this success, which Dracula will bring, will not come without its drawbacks. Lugosi was soon restricted to typecasting as a horror actor. Even though he wanted to work in a diverse range of occupations, Hollywood production companies continued to cast him in similar horror roles. As you can imagine, this typecasting restricted the kind of scripts that were assigned to him, and therefore the way he could have developed into more of a versatile actor. Even worse, Lugosi's popularity faded over the years, and he was left with little money to his name. Most of the parts that he played were in independent or low-budget flicks, which were even B-movies, often by unknown production houses. These were the issues the public was familiar with. After his death in 1956, it became more publicly known that Lugosi had been battling a serious morphine addiction. With no clear way of making a living anymore, Lugosi developed some personal problems with substance abuse. This morphine addiction, in conjunction with typecasting, had hindered his progress and led to his deterioration. By the middle of the 50s, Lugosi's career had deteriorated so badly that he was working with director Ed Wood and appeared in B-movies and films that are considered to be the worst in history. While the later years of Bela Lugosi were somewhat tumultuous, his link to Dracula remains an inseparable part of the horror film history. Unfortunately, this horror story played out in his life as well. Lugosi could not escape the identification with his character, so much so that he was even buried in his Dracula cape. Tragic that he immortalized himself as a film legend while also falling prey to his own success.
Steve? Oh, Steve! Trying to break up.
Number 2. Thelma Todd. Known for her roles in films like Monkey Business and Horse Feathers, Todd was a popular actress in the 1930s. From her beauty to her charm and vivacious spirit, Todd had everything needed to conquer the global stage. However, her untimely death at age 29 led to years of speculation and conflicting theories. So many hidden details about her life were revealed that it sparked one of Hollywood's greatest mysteries. For this one, we will take it back to the morning of Monday, December 16, 1935. The body of a young woman was found doubled over on the front seat of her chocolate brown 1934 Lincoln Phaeton. Sadly, that woman was Thelma Todd. This convertible was parked in a garage in Pacific Palisades. She was wearing diamond jewelry and dressed in a mauve and silver evening gown and a mink coat. By all indications, Todd had seemingly died of carbon monoxide poisoning. The skin on her face was also red with coagulated blood because she had struck her head on the steering wheel of her car as she died. As you can imagine, this was a big deal. She was one of the biggest stars in Hollywood at the time, and she was only 29. There were so many strange things about this unfortunate incident. For one, the garage where her car was parked belonged to the house of her on and off lover, director Roland West. To make things even more complicated, West's estranged wife, Jewel Carmen, who was also a silent movie star, was also living there at the time. Her death created a frenzy in the media with daily headlines throughout the police investigation. Some facts were attested to by witnesses, but a lot of the story is still unknown, mostly due to the fact that the gaps were filled in with conspiracy theories and conjecture. According to police records, Todd went to the Trocadero nightclub on Sunset Boulevard on Saturday night for a party hosted in her honor. Apparently, she got into an altercation with her ex-husband, Pat DiCicco, but she was in good spirits and was dropped off by her chauffeur just before 4 a.m. in the morning. The chauffeur testified that he dropped her off at the foot of the stairs on PCH that led up to her apartment. The theory goes that Todd found that she was locked out of her home and decided to climb 270 stairs up the hill to access the garage where the chauffeur parked her car and then spend the night sheltering in it. She turned on the ignition of the car to stay warm and might not have been sober enough to remember the dangers of carbon monoxide poisoning. At first, the police rushed to judgment, calling her death a suicide. But when more than 100 gift-wrapped Christmas presents were found in her apartment, it pointed them in the direction that she might not have been suicidal after all. The cause was then changed to accidental death, and it was a decision agreed to by a grand jury. While it is a working theory, it was never accepted for several reasons, and to this day, many still believe that Todd was in fact murdered. One of the things that could not be explained was the autopsy report. It proved that she had throat damage, the kind that could have been caused by the forcing of a hose into her mouth, as well as a broken nose and 2 cracked ribs. Another thing was that the ignition was on in the car when Todd's body was found. Todd was found a day after she died, so how likely is it that the fuel in the tank had not been drained by the time she was found? Also, Todd's mother told the police of her daughter's weak heart, so it was unlikely that she would have climbed 270 steps up a very steep hill to get to her car. Her shoes did not show any signs of rough climbing either. Now consider the men in her life. DiCicco, whom Todd had married in 1932 and divorced in 2 years, was a violent thug who frequently beat her. DiCicco was also known to be a mob enforcer. There was also her on and off lover, West. He too was known to be a jealous and controlling man with a volcanic temperature. Eerily, there was a subsequent rumored deathbed confession from him to his friend, actor Chester Morris. There was a rumor that he locked her up in the car out of anger, unaware that she would turn the car on to keep warm on the cold December night.
My mother, Loretta Young, did Call of the Wild. Well, the first time I knew who my father was, I was 23.
Number 1. Clark Gable. Often hailed as the King of Hollywood, Clark Gable is no doubt one of the most recognizable and influential faces from the golden age of Hollywood. One significant role in his life would be the 1935 film Call of the Wild. You see, despite his marriage to Rhea Langham, he just could not resist getting entangled with actress Loretta Young. Somehow, her strict Catholic upbringing did not deter him either. Instead, their undeniable chemistry led to a clandestine affair. When things ended, Gable did not realize he had a baby on the way. Following a secret delivery, Gable was reportedly informed of his child through a telegram. As the story goes, he tore it up and flushed it down the toilet. With no word from the father, Young then placed her newborn with temporary caregivers and eventually an orphanage. Months later, she orchestrated the adoption of her child at 19 months old. Despite the fabricated narrative presented to the public, skepticism prevailed in Hollywood circles. That child was actress Judy Lewis. It was only after Gable died in 1960 of a heart attack that Lewis finally persuaded her mother to disclose the long-guarded truth of her parentage. Subsequently, her 1994 memoir titled Uncommon Knowledge revealed the secret to the world. That's it. 20 hidden truths we discovered about actors after they passed away. Know any other cases that could have made our list? Do share your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button. You also can't miss the video on screen.